All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Altars of Metal show. Tonight we summon not just a man, but a myth forged in the black sands of brutal death metal history. He's a riff-summoning pharaoh of the fretboard and necrotechnician of the Nile, and the only person we know who can read the Book of the Dead and downpick at 280 BPM without breaking a sweat. He's the founder of Nile, a band so heavy, ancient deities have been known to quake in their sarcophagi. So please welcome the master of Middle Eastern scales and metaphysical tales, Karl Sanders. Hello, Karl, and welcome to Altars of Metal. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you, Dimitri?
Yeah, I'm doing great, man. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you over here. Right, so we have a little bit of a limited time, so we're gonna try and read, guys. We're gonna try and read your questions as well. So I'm gonna start with my own. And man, I'm sorry, but the first question has to be a sad one, as I'd like you to talk about Nova. As I'm a dog lover myself, I saw a very touching piece of artwork you recently did with Nova, Doom-like kind of art. Would you like to
Yeah.
tell us a couple of words about Nile's official sixth member?
Well, Nova sadly has moved on. She was with us 16 years. So, like, every album, going back, 16 years, she's been there while I wrote every single song. We tracked all the records. Um, she's been here. Records. So, yeah. Uh, yeah, it's like losing a family member, 'cause she's one of us. And she's much beloved by Nile fans as well, because
Mm,
she's always in the pictures with us. Um, every time the guys are here, she's right there with them. Everybody loved that dog.
yeah. I feel you, man, because I lost two dogs this year, so yeah.
Oh, man, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well. Anyways, and before going into the main stuff, I'd like to ask you, as far as I know, you're doing also martial arts. You hold a third dan in Sani Jutsu and also a black belt in Taekwondo. Is that correct?
That's correct. I gave it up a few years back when the pandemic started. It was time for me to move on. I've been going for 8 years in Sanai Jitsu. Um, uh, but playing guitar as much as I do and training, there was never any time to give my wrists a break. So they had no time to rest. So they were always in braces
Hmm.
because I was in like a lot of pain. You know, play guitar and hit the heavy bag all day.
Yeah.
I had to realize, wait a minute, one of these things is a viable career, and other is something I just like to do. So one of them's got to go.
And a day
So
only has 24 hours, right?
it only has 24 hours, and Nile takes up so much of my time.
I'm
It's
sure. I'm sure. And you're also doing
crazy.
guitar lessons, as far as I know. So that is also taking an extra time. Yeah, it's very difficult to juggle with adult life. So, right. But from what I've read in other interviews, it has actually helped you doing martial arts, like with your breathing techniques and
Hmm.
everything, because all of us who do martial arts, at least for a few years, we know that different techniques can actually help you so much with your body in different cases. And let aside having to growl and having to use your diaphragm and use these
Hmm.
techniques. So, as I've read, it has actually helped you. Yes,
Yeah,
this
for
thing.
sure.
Hmm.
The super low death growling takes twice as much oxygen for the same note
Hmm.
because you got to move twice as much air to go twice as low. So without a little bit of discipline and technique, uh, man, it's you can run out of air fast.
Hmm.
And as you well know, if you can't breathe, you can't fight. If you can't breathe, you can't play death metal. So
So death metal is a fight, a constant
it
fight.
is a fight, like your whole body, is involved. Um, People think it's just your hands or just your voice or whatever, but it's not. If you're playing death metal and you're doing it for real with conviction, then it's your whole person, mind and soul,
Hmm.
body, everything.
Hmm. Okay, perfect. Right. So, The Underworld Awaits Us All has just been released only a few months ago. I believe it both honors the band's legacy and pushes your music into new territories. A refined production, dynamic songwriting, atmospheric depth, and the fresh contributions of the newer members. We've got Zach Jeter and Dan Vadimvon bringing a newer in Nile's established sound. Now, I'd like you to tell us in your own words, how happy are you with the result, and how would you say that Nile have taken a leap forward with it?
Yeah, we're extremely happy with the record. I think Mark Lewis did a great job with the production. Um, yeah, in the songwriting, man, we're super happy with it. Everybody's performances on the records, I think it really turned out very well. I'm real happy with this one. Probably the most happiest I've been in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah.
Right. Okay. Um, right. I'll be also reading some of the questions from our audience, and let me say hello to everybody joining us. Don't forget to tell us where you're joining us from. My friend Vitamin Death is his nickname. He joins us from Greece. He says, "Your personal albums are exquisite trips down the vistas of history. Thank you for your time, sir. I only have one question. Working on your personal albums is an exercise in feeling naked, sort of, without the massive wall of sound and complexity of Nile, I mean?"
Well, sure. Yeah, when you're playing an acoustic guitar, it's a much different experience than when you got big, loud electric guitars and drums and bass and all the rest of it that goes with death metal. Um, it's a quieter thing, and yeah, it's more it's it's pure and it's unadorned in some ways. Like, yeah, it is like being naked. Sure, it's
Hmm.
art.
It is.
Not just nudity, it's art.
It is, and it is quite different. So, again, we're seeing you actually loving history over there and going through it. But it is also like, how can I say? I'm trying to find the English word. It's like taking your soul and your feelings and everything and putting it in a box and then releasing it out to the public, right? Um, how do you feel that it expresses you? Through how do you express yourself through your personal project in comparison with Nile? What's the difference in your expression?
Well, I think it's as simple as one's a quiet project and one's a big loud one.
Hmm.
Because life is like that. You're not always yelling and kicking and screaming and fighting. You know, there's a whole range of human experience that's not necessarily loud.
Hmm. Okay. Right, and let me get back to The Underworld Awaits Us All. And regarding the artwork, it is done again by Michal Lorang. I don't know if I pronounced the name correctly. How happy, oof, what a question, I know the answer, but how happy are you with the artwork? And to what extent do you think that Michal has achieved encapsulating the essence and the spirit of the album? Has he managed to portray your inner soul that you put in the songwriting, and has he fulfilled your expectations in representing it accurately?
Well, when I think about that question, asked from that frame of reference, the answer would be misleading because I love what he did, right? And we let him do whatever he wanted pretty much. Uh, so I would say that I'm happy with his personal expression as he saw the record. It's not
Hmm.
necessarily how I would have done things, but that doesn't matter. He was the artist, and that's the way he saw it, and I stand behind him. Is it exactly what I imagined it would be or I would do? Well, that's irrelevant. I don't care. I'll let him do the cover. and I'm happy with what he did, and I love that guy. The only thing I'm not happy about is the font on the layout is so small that I can't motherfucking read it. So next time I see Mikal, I'm gonna have to address that situation with him.
But it sounds just like he's another member of Nile taking his part and expressing himself right there, right?
I think that's important, like George, he contributes his own things to the songs. And that's important. That's why it's a group, right?
Mm-hmm.
So letting Mikal or Zay, as he's also known, do things the way he sees it, I think that's a great thing because I'm not an artist, right? I can imagine all kind of fucking shit, but I'm not an artist. He's an artist. There's a whole lifetime of talent and skill that he's put in to his thing. So I'm really happy to just, hey, here it is. Here's the lyrics. Here's the songs. Go do your thing.
Yeah, as usual. Perfect. Okay, we've got the user Wooks. I don't know how to pronounce it properly. From Finland, he says, "Cheers from Finland," and he says, "Hi, Karl. Both your solo work and Nile are rich in atmosphere. Thank you for those experiences. Any chance you could post a video of your home studio and the instruments you use? And may I say over
Well,
here..."
we're in my home studio.
There
right?
you go.
Here we are. And there's my guitar. Yeah. And this does all the solos. And it's the guitar I practice every day on for hours and hours.
And I think you have done actually a video presenting both the guitar and I think also your tour equipment as well, correct? I think I've
Probably. I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope that was mine.
And and this guitar, as far as I remember, it was special when it comes to the frets, right?
Right. It's all the frets are scalloped. Let's see if I can get this in the camera. You can see. Yeah.
So how is this? First of all, explain to those of us who are not very technical, why is this happening in this guitar and how does it help you, and is it actually more difficult, and how does it benefit you in your sound?
Well, yeah, it is more difficult. It's really hard to keep things in tune because the fretboard is carved out in between the frets. And this is done, I believe, the whole reason to do this is because a finger is round. It's not flat. So if we were to take my round finger and stick it in one of these frets, right, here we go. Bing! It fits in there.
Let me take myself away so that we can see your... Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it just fits right in there. Pow! Right in that oval-shaped gap. And that lets you really grab onto the string and have a supreme amount of control over the string, like the pitch bending, the vibrato, the sliding, everything. It's a lot of expression, but also the tuning takes a lot more work. You got to have a really light touch or the chords go out of tune.
Yeah.
But you got to really be controlled with it. So it took a while. It took like a month or two to get used to it. When I made the change from non-scallop fretboards to fret with scallops, it took a little while, but man, do I love the sound. It's a very pure ringing because the string never touches wood. The string just touches the fret.
Yeah.
And that's all you need for a note is to make string touch the fret.
So you actually, with your finger, you have to touch near the fret or on the fret or in between?
Not even the fret.
Not even.
You're just touching the string enough to push the string to touch the metal wire. And that's it. Yeah.
Cool. That's a special guitar, man. All right. Okay. So, and regarding your last album with Nile, since the album has only been released like a few months ago, I believe it is early to ask if Nile have any new material written down or any thoughts or any ideas or anything at all, right?
Yeah, it's too early for that. We're still promoting this record, still, trying to play all the new songs live. So for me, I don't want to start writing the next one yet.
Yeah.
I want to wait
Enjoy.
until the well fills back up, right? The artistic well, because when you only make a record once every couple of years and you put everything that you have into it, that's everything you had. But I don't want to just make a record just to make a Nile record. I think there needs to be a reason, a purpose, some ideas that we're excited about. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So touring is one of the parts that is directly related with promoting the new record. So would you like to tell us a little about where you guys have recently played, but most importantly, where you're going to be touring in the next, let's say, 6 months or so?
Well, we just finished a thing in the States with 6 Foot Under. The next thing we're doing is next weekend going down to play at a festival in Brazil. I think it's called the Bangers Fest. Then we go the next weekend to Chile. And after that, coming up shortly, Maryland Death Fest. Then a whole bunch, like 2 weeks worth of fests in June. More European festivals in August. We're supposed to do a tour in September in Canada with Cryptopsy.
All right.
But there's a whole lot of craziness going on with the border between U.S. and Canada. So I'm not sure what's going to happen with that. But fuck yeah, Cryptopsy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. And about touring, how difficult is it? I mean, I know I've heard from other musicians as well that, hey, it's not like this, we're living the dream as everybody thinks. It's absolutely exhausting. And you might lose your instruments or you might not make it on time or something. And it's also dangerous, of course. Plus, it's difficult with, balancing your life with your family and your band and, all of this together. I'd like to hear your own words. How would you actually describe touring in a few words for Karl specifically?
Well, that 1 hour that out of the day that we're on stage, spending time with the fans, playing our music, that's friggin' gold. And that is so worthwhile that we'll put up with the other 23 hours and all the other bullshit that people don't see, but we have to live. That time on stage with the fans, that's the whole reason that anyone does it.
Yeah.
Because, you are away from your family. Metal touring isn't something that you're ever going to get rich from doing. You do it because you love it. You love the music. You're willing to pay the price. It is much easier when you're 25, though. I got to say, touring when you're 25, you got plenty of energy. It's easier. Go live in a van for a month, eat terrible food, and not get enough sleep, and traveling, and all the other stupid shit that you got to participate in. When you're 60 and you've already been doing it for a bunch of years, it becomes something else.
I can bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember.
So I try to.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. You go ahead.
All right. Now, I was just gonna say. I remember you said you're not. Nobody's gonna get rich from that, and it's just because you play the music that you love. And I remember back in the day, even Chuck Schuldiner saying, "Man, I can just pay my bills, and we were kids and we were like, wow, we live in the other side of the planet and we know these people and they travel all over the world and they love them all over the world and they do this. How is it possible that they don't make any money? And now, today, even I think it's even more difficult with the technology and, with everything being actually on YouTube and Spotify and this and that and becoming digital. Things have changed from back in the days, and it's not as romantic, shall I use the word, you know. So
Much less romanticized.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. But I think the challenges are bigger. I mean, and I'm gonna end up in a specific word: technology. Technology has been there in music, in our instruments, in social media, and the way we actually put ourselves out. But at the same time, it brings other challenges. For example, even a small band can go out into presenting themselves to everybody, but at the same time, it's an ocean of bands out there, and it's becoming more challenging. And we have the shortest attention span coming from the social media, and people are now listening to your song and next. While back in the day, we would listen to that song for a whole week and go like really study on it. So how do you feel? How do you see it with your own eyes? This on what technology has brought to our beloved music genre and how it has shaped things.
Well, you said it really well. Um, I think it's a double-edged sword. Well, on the one hand, it has made things possible. It also has made some things very tough. But I've also seen an explosion in the evolution of the art form. Because, like when I started playing death metal, we didn't have YouTube, so you couldn't see unless you went to the show. You couldn't see how people were actually doing things. Like, how is this music actually played? Whereas nowadays, you can go on YouTube and you see 100 different guys playing, all kinds of metal stuff. So the explosion of the art form, the technique, um, has really just, like, it's exponential.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I also see people playing with a lot less conviction, though. Like, metal has a spirit, right? There's a spirit to metal. Um, and for me, that needs to be there. And I don't always hear that from bands that are overly focused on the technology of things.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's about simple stuff like what a guy does with his guitar, what he does with the drums, what's he doing with the vocals, what is the soul of it. That's what fucking matters to me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The user Mikeriu, I hope I pronounce it correctly, sorry if I don't, says, I love the tabs from Sheet Happens. Are there plans to add tabs from other albums as well?
So far, no. But, if they can make it work, that'd be great.
Okay. All right. And you've mentioned that during your time with Moria, you had the chance to witness early rehearsals of Morbid Angel. Well, you see the name of this show. So, including material that would become Abominations of Desolation and Altars of Madness. You described this experience as mind-blowing and a catalyst that made you rethink your approach to playing. Could you elaborate on that moment? How did witnessing their evolution firsthand influence your own musical direction and the eventual formation of Nile?
Yeah, it was mind-blowing. It was like realizing the infinite potential of the metal art form. Like, before then, my comprehension went about as far as Slayer. Right? That's all I could conceive of, and to me, that was like, this is as heavy as it motherfucking gets. So, seeing the early Morbid guys doing what they were doing was like, whoa! I had no idea any of this was even possible. So, it's like, the first time that somebody sees the ocean or realizes, mathematics or science or anything else like that. Like, whoa, you just opened up the universe. It's full of infinite potential. So, yeah.
So, Slayer was the heaviest at the time, and then it was Morbid Angel that you discovered. So,
Yeah. Which opened the door to a whole lot of other things. Which is it's quite a crazy time. Back in the early days, the late '80s
yeah.
of early underground metal. Um, yeah, it seemed like anything was possible back then.
Uh,
Like nowadays, the boundaries and parameters of what is death metal are very established. Like it's supposed to sound like this. Back then, it was a more creative, wide open kind of spirit. Like anything was possible. You could do all
hmm.
kind of crazy shit because nobody, had clearly defined exactly what is death metal. Well, it could be a lot of different things. It could be gore fest. It could be death. It could be, cynic. It could be atheist. It could be, all sorts of great early shit that sounded very different from each other.
Hmm.
Nowadays, it's really, well established boundaries. It's Cannibal Corpse, Suffocation.
The will has been invented already. That's the thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But I know what you mean. When you were listening to Slayer and then you heard this stuff, I felt the same. I'm a little bit younger, so that was '94 for me. And I
Mm,
went from Slayer, I went to Obituary, and I was like,
right
"What
on.
the hell is that?" And then instantly, the whole package came together: Morbid Angel, Cannibal Corpse, Suffocation, da 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 da. Da. You know the story, how it goes. But yeah, all right, cool. Another question I'll pick up from the audience is Menelaos from Thessaly of Greece. He says, "How much of your time do you dedicate for the lyrical concept? Because to write about Egyptology, it doesn't seem quite easy."
Well, there you go. Um, Usually, I'll write all the words first. Like that's I'll just go on a binge and write for a couple weeks.
Hmm.
And not everything gets used. Some of it's awful, but you have to do it. You have to do it, right? Because you're not going to put everything that you write on your record because, in truth, not everything that you create is going to be worth listening to.
Hmm.
There are awful things that come out of my hands, but they don't go on the record.
Obviously, not everything can go on the record, right? So,
Yeah, not everything can go on the record.
mm,
So I write, and I write a lot, and I spend quite a bit of time on it.
okay, all right. So, obviously, a lot of history reading, a lot of books over there. You must be bibliopharos, we say in Greek, which means like the one who eats books. But yeah,
That's pretty cool. Yeah,
the
I'm the one
Nile's
who reads
Nile's
books.
origin story is often framed around your fascination with ancient history, and yeah, we all know how fascinated you are, especially with Egyptian history and yeah, and brutal death metal. But there's this early moment that I've always found intriguing back in the early '90s when you were working at the record store in Greenville. Um, is it true that you met Chief Spires and Pete Hamura almost by accident there, and that's what led to Nile forming as we know it? Um,
No,
could you?
no,
Okay,
this story has become adulterated.
okay,
I wasn't working at the record store.
okay.
No, that wasn't me.
All right.
Uh, yeah,
What was that like the
it was.
first encounter? How exactly did it happen then? Sorry if I have misinformation over here then.
Uh, that would you'd have to go all the way back to 1980, maybe 81, when I
Mhm.
met Peter Mora.
Okay.
He came to see the band that I was playing in, and he tells this story much better than I do. But uh, we met and decided let's give this a go. So we got together and started playing, and he and I played in a bunch of versions of Mariah for years. Uh, and at some point, we knew Chief Spire's girlfriend, Alice Carpenter, because she had briefly dated one of our singers. Um, she knew Chief, and Chief played bass and sang, and we needed a guy that could play bass and sing. So we tried that, and that worked. That was pretty strong.
Hmm.
We did that for a while as Mariah, um, until our singer showed us that, well, maybe we don't need this singer anymore. Uh, which is a whole other epic story. Yeah. So Nile was really formed out of the ashes of Mariah.
Okay.
Um,
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. I've got yeah, I've got another question over here from Christopher Fly, Alabama, USA. Carl, I read Ancient Evenings by Norman Mailer in 1983-84. I loved that novel, and it influenced me to check out Nile years later. Familiar with the novel? Any thoughts?
nope, I haven't
No.
read it.
Okay. Ancient Evenings by
So
Norman
I'd be
Mailer.
curious to hear why that book made him want to check out Nile. That would be
Yeah,
interesting to
I
know.
was wondering the same thing when I read the question. Yeah, how did you, Christopher? If you'd like to write in the comments, I'll read it later. How did that book get you to um, explore Nile's sound years later? Maybe he was affected by the theme. I don't know, but we will find out. And yes, my friend Vargian he's from my town. He says, when did you even learn so much about Egyptian mythology? Do you actually prefer it in comparison to Greek or Nordic mythology? And he's also from here, from Crete.
Crete.
Hmm.
Uh, no, I don't necessarily prefer one mythology over another. Um, it really, with Nile, there was an epiphany I had one day after we were already called Nile for months already. I asked myself, if I were a listener, what would I expect or want to hear from a band called Nile?
Hmm.
And so I thought about it. I was like, okay, well, yeah, we need to do ancient history, ancient warfare, ancient religions. This is a whole vast array of topics suitable for a metal band. So, okay, called now. Somebody's going to need to study up and learn about some of this stuff so we can write some songs. And that turned out to be me because it wasn't going to be Pete and wasn't going to be Chief. So I was like, okay. But after a while, like, doing all this research to learn, what am I going to write now songs about? It was fun. I was having a great time, learning all kind of cool shit. So, it just fed itself, right? It started making this circle where,
Hmm.
I'm doing it and it's fun, so I'm going to do it some more.
Okay. Right. Next question is about our fellow Greek, George Kollias, who joined Nile in 2004. And as far as I know, he was recommended to you by someone. Would you
Hmm.
like to tell us more about who this someone was and how did the connection occur, actually?
Well, Tony Loriano had left, and we were going to have to find a new drummer. So I did what I always did. I called my friend Derek Roddy and say, "Hey, Derek, who do you know? Who could do this gig?" and he ranted and raved about this guy George Kollias, um, who absolutely could do what we needed to do. Um, and he sent us some video that he had of George, and we checked it out, and we saw for ourselves with our own eyes. George was the real thing.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, uh, and the rest is history.
It's just 21 years now, isn't it?
Yeah,
Time
that's a
flies.
serious commitment,
Yeah,
right? You think about that. It's a
yeah,
guy on the other side of the planet who makes music with us. That's something amazing, I think.
yeah. So do you think that George's brain is AI powered? Because his drumming is
No,
insane. His drumming is insane. He must have some he must have got some quantum computer CPU or something, in that head, giving orders to his hands and feet, or maybe he was an octopus in his previous life. I don't know, but yeah, he's always.
if you've ever seen George play football or ride a motorcycle, you'd understand, right? Because the connection between his brain and his hands and his feet are just really finely tuned. Like his hand, eye, and mind foot connection is just really right there. Like he thinks it, he does it, it flows like water.
I think thanks to
So,
drumming, he has achieved that. Yeah, yeah. He
I
would.
don't know. I think he was always like that. He's
Okay.
like one of those guys. There was a movie like 40 years ago called The Natural, Robert Redford, and he was a baseball player.
Hmm.
Never had any formal training, just a natural, like born to do it.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
George.
All right.
George was born to do it.
Okay. Well, send him the regards from his country. We all send him our regards. All right. So, yeah, my what I wanted to ask you before, I remember when you mentioned about Slayer and then going into death metal and everything. So, one of the questions that came up to my mind is we never forget. I never forget when I interview people of the scene. Musicians that we love their work and everything. That end of the day, we're all human beings and we're all fans of the same music. So as a fan, I would like to know what was the first metal, or if it was rock, I don't know, gig that you went to. It really blew your mind away. Just that you went like, wow, and you will never forget as long as you live. What was that first
Um,
experience, live experience?
I've been to a lot of concerts when I was a teenager, but the Heaven and Hell tour, when it came through our town,
Mm.
Greenville, at the Memorial Auditorium, which is even oversold. It's like 10,000 it holds, right? And this was Ryan James Dio, um, uh, Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, and Vinny Appice was playing drums. Um, holy shit. Holy shit. They started with War Pigs, and from the first fucking chord, man, I still feel the electricity running through my spine. When I just did that right now, thought about it, I remembered being there and the electric energy that whipped through the 10,000 people that were there. Unforgettable. The
Mm.
power of metal.
Yeah, of that one chord. Yeah.
I was like, oh man, uh, a fan for life. Like,
I had that exact same feeling, but that was in '96, seeing Slayer for the first time. That
mhm.
first moment when they went like dun 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 dun, dun, I was like, the universe exploded. Yeah. All right. Okay. I've got Christopher Fly in again, answering with the book that we asked him before. He says Ancient Evenings takes place during the reign of Ramses the Ninth. A man who has died recalls a tale told by his grandfather about the reign of Ramses II, sprawling tale of the history of ancient Egypt. Okay, yeah. So I guess
Cool.
he heard about Nile later, that they are associated with all this stuff. So.
However you get there,
Still,
it doesn't matter,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't matter where you heard Slayer. It just matters that you heard Slayer.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Okay. Let me see my questions again. All right. And yeah, I wanted to ask you as well about your personal project. And you have also we have, let me just check my, we have the Saurian Apocalypse, which was released in 2022. So this was your last work. Of course, they're all connected from 2004 they're all the Saurian albums. Are we gonna see again one of your personal projects coming to the surface, or is it gonna take again some time, perhaps another decade?
Well, I don't want to wait another decade. So, while I'm still alive, I want to do another one.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Okay, so we can see at least another 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 albums.
Yes, of course. I will live to be 150.
There you go. Okay. And you've described the Saurian albums as music for escaping the chaos of the world. Ironically, Saurian Apocalypse feels darker than its predecessors. Did the state of the world, or even your own internal headspace / influence, headspace influence that shift in tone?
I would not dare to think that it didn't.
Okay.
These were very dark times, right? A pandemic was going on, and everybody was locked down and isolated from each other. Yeah. So, yeah, of course it had to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Right, I'm going to be fast with the last questions because I know your time is limited and we had only 45 minutes today, which I very much appreciate. I will quickly read another question from Vargian. He says, are you familiar with any Greek death metal bands? And if you have any personal favorites, or maybe one that you would like to tour with, or whatever, any names, death metal bands from Greece.
Septic Flesh. Duh. Come on. They are the kings.
And very, very similar concepts from Septic Flesh, as we see. Yeah, there's a lot of Egyptian concepts.
Good guys, too. Always enjoyed them. Every time I meet them, great guys.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. All right. Okay, I think it's we're running out of time, guys, so we have to be closing it here. So I think it is safe, Karl, to say thank you, and you can close with a message of your own to your fans.
Thank you so much for having me, and to all the fans, dude, we appreciate you. Without metal fans, there would be no metal. So, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, this was Karl Sanders. Until next time, this has been Altars of Metal, where the myths are loud, the riffs are eternal, and we don't just ask questions, we unearth legends. So, stay heavy, stay curious. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell button. I'm only saying this in the last few shows. It's the way to keep going. Karl, thank you so much for joining our show. It's been a pleasure talking to you, sir. Wishing you all the best to your future endeavors and everything, and hope we can have a beer one day. All the best. And to everybody, thank you for watching us, and have a lovely day, evening, depending on where you are in the world. All the best, and see you next time. Bye-bye.